7 races down and 5 to go in 2025. Welcome to the Serena Jakarta ePrix. It is hot, it is humid, and it is time to go racing. 38 laps of action to come for you this afternoon with 22 of the world's best drivers in the Premier Electric Racing Series. Let's run you through the starting grid for the ePrix here this afternoon. Frijns right at the back for Envision. Norman Nato, his equal worst starting position of the season. An all-loader Yamaha apt row 10 with Lucas de Grassi lining up alongside his teammate Zane Maloney. Jake Hughes 18th. Reigning world champion Pascal Wehrlein demoted 3 places for driving unnecessarily slowly in the Tag Heuer Porsche, and championship leader Oliver Rowland down there in 16th position as well. Lots of work for him to do. Stoffel Vandoorne next up with Nico Muller in the Andretti alongside. Maximilian Günther, he's a former winner here. Sam Bird has his best starting position though in Jakarta with P11 for Neon McLaren. And then we run through into the top 10 positions on the grid. Mitch Evans, a third consecutive race in Jakarta, starting in 10th place, but he's not scored any points since Sao Paulo, December last year. Costa leads Porsche's charge. He'll be aiming for his 5th podium of the year from 9th on the grid. Next up is Jean-Eric Vergne. He's scored in all but 2 races so far this season. Sebastian Buemi starts 7th. He's never finished higher than 10th here in Jakarta. And right up ahead of him is Edo Mortara, a podium here back in 2022 for Venturi. He'll be aiming for his first podium of the year, and Mahindra's second. Dan Ticktum missed out on the semi-finals in the duels by just 0.005 of a second earlier on today. Nick Cassidy had a suspension problem in FP2, but he's very happy with P4 on the grid. The top 3 is occupied by Nick de Vries, 8th in the Drivers' Championship. He'll be aiming for the second Mahindra podium of 2025. Taylor Barnard making a mistake in the duels finals and lines up P2 on the dirty side of the grid. But it's Jake Dennis who takes his first pole since Berlin 2024, continues his unbroken streak of front row starts in every race here in Jakarta. It's his 7th pole position and it's Andretti's 14th. So the drivers now all in position, 22 of them. So it's going to be a race of patience versus precision, of brains over brawn. Who will be smarter in Jakarta as the 5 lights go out and go racing? As Dennis moves over and holds the lead, but look at Nick de Vries coming through on the inside. Ticktum to the outside line there as well, but de Vries from 3rd up into 2nd. Dennis leads the way, and Barnard demoted down into 3rd position off the start. On the inside there is Nick Cassidy getting his elbows out against Dan Ticktum through turn 2 and into turn 3. A textbook start though from pole position for Dennis. He holds the lead.
Definitely the biggest winner there, Dan Ticktum muscled his way through. Biggest loser was Taylor Barnard. However, he's only dropped 1 place. And I think in reality that was always going to happen. Nick de Vries was able just to slide into that P2. And at the moment it's Jake Dennis out front. Jake's now got to be clean and tidy on this first lap.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So coming through the middle section of the lap down in towards turn 13. This is where we've seen so many drivers making mistakes. And look at the dust even online on this circuit. Side-by-side action going on there between the Costa, Vandoorne rather I should say, and Maximilian Günther down in 13th and 14th place. Rowland meanwhile has moved up a couple of positions. He's into 14th from 16th on the grid. Wehrlein meanwhile down in 17th. He's only up 1 place into P16 as we come to the end of the first lap.
Yeah, now just look at it going down into that first corner. It's another opportunity, but I don't think anybody's really close enough to have a look down into turn 1. Taylor Barnard's definitely got the speed though, because he's easily able to sit directly behind Nick de Vries all the way down. So I think, yeah, Jean-Eric Vergne into the pits.
So we don't get a chance to see what's happening in terms of the attack mode advantage, but Vergne retiring from this race on lap 5 as we look at Muller side by side with Sam Bird down into the first corner. That's a battle for 9th position. Dust being kicked up there. Muller on the inside into turn 3. Can he get it done? Can he make it stick? Bird gets shoveled to the wall on the outside. Muller through and into 9th.
Yeah, Nico Muller is a little bit late going into 1 there, compromised Sam, but they were able to make it round side by side. Now Sam's got Mitch Evans trying to go around the outside. It was nose damage for Jean-Eric Vergne.
Okay, what's the damage? What's the damage? Front wing, front wing.
Yeah, front wing damage there for Jean-Eric Vergne, so into the pit lane then for the Frenchman, and unfortunately out of any meaningful contention unless there's a safety car which will bring the field back together. What happened with Vergne and Evans then, so down in towards turn 13. Keep an eye out side by side there in the background, and Vergne just misjudged his braking, ploughed straight into the back of the Kiwi.
Yeah, he did. He just had the extra pace coming down into there with the extra power, and unfortunately drove into the back of Mitch Evans.
So Maloney, Beckman and well, cause for concern there for them, and unfortunately a cause for concern here for Maximilian Günther, a winner in Jakarta 2 years ago here for Maserati, and unfortunately with DS Penske it is a retirement for the very first time in this race.
And it's interesting because Sam Bird starting to defend quite a lot more. He was quite attacky at the beginning of the race, and now is sort of defending against Mitch Evans on entry to corners you wouldn't normally expect.
You see these drivers just, as I say, keeping it quite patient at the sharp end of this one. Look at the dust that's being kicked up, even though we're online. A dive to the inside sounds like it might be a tempting prospect in any normal circumstances, but here you've just got no grip under braking.
Well, you've got Maloney going down the inside in the Lola, and he's just slipped up another place, so that he's overtaken Pascal Wehrlein. Now Maloney is on attack mode. He's just got 1 minute 15 seconds to go. And so his next target will be Stoffel van Dorn.
Yeah, for Max Günther in the second of the Penske's. Oh, he got shuffled into the wall there.
We saw one of them coming up into the wall. Wasn't sure 100% whether they touched, but he slid wide, trying to get a good exit, and actually that's allowed someone down the inside.
Yeah, it was the Nissan, wasn't it? Well, I'm just trying to work out if that was Rowland or Netto. It must have been Rowland, because, yeah, he's quite far up the order. And well, there was no contact between them, but Günther there onto the dust on the outside and no grip. And there is Rowland getting his elbows out against Mitch Evans as well. There's smoke coming off the back of Evans' car, courtesy of that rear wing damage for the contact that he had with Verne earlier on. Incidentally, Verne has been given a 5-second time penalty for that collision as well. Now, Alan, the sharp end of this race, they're all keeping it pretty sensible, as I've said a couple of times now. But Dennis hasn't been able to build an advantage relative to those behind. So how are they going to play this in terms of the attack mode strategy?
I don't think he's trying to build an advantage. I think he's trying to control the gap. And I think he's trying just to make sure he's slightly out of a lunge from Nick de Vries. And I think Nick de Vries is doing the same to make sure he's out of a lunge of Taylor Barnard. They're just waiting on who goes first on the attack mode between these lot. And there'll be a point where Dennis will push like mad on the second and third sector to try to build enough of a gap so he comes out, hopefully, for him, ahead of Dan.
He's then going to have to save it later on in the race. Rowland, 5-second time penalty for causing a collision then here. So, Oliver Rowland, well, unfortunately, another tricky race. Shanghai, no points.
But which collision?
Well, I assume there must have been contact with Mitch Evans. Team. And again, just nothing doing for him there now. Right, so there is Sam Bird going into attack mode. And where's he going to emerge? It's very close here with Maloney.
Right in front of Pascal Wehrlein.
Yeah, not what the German would have wanted there at all. Didn't register, though, for Sam Bird. He's missed attack mode here, hasn't he? So he's obviously missed the loops. We've seen a few drivers going wide, and unfortunately for Bird, it's cost him prep position and time, and he hasn't got the advantage of the 50 kilowatts of power. Nearly 3 abreast down into T1. Maloney defending the inside line. Wehrlein there with better track position and traction on the inside. Can he get the move done into turn 3? The door is kind of being squeezed there by Maloney. On the inside he goes, and Wehrlein there shuffled to the wall on the outside. Has to get out of the throttle and can't use the extra four-wheel drive. Can he look for the inside line? There's a bit of contact. Oh, look at that as well with Van Dorn. Hip and shoulder there with Sam Bird for 14th behind.
For it, and then I would assume at the end of this lap they will try and take their attack mode and still cycle out ahead, especially for them of Taylor Barnard, but also I'd say at the Dan Ticktum area.
They were waiting for the domino to fall, weren't they? They were vaiting for somebody in that lead group of de Vries and Barnard to go into attack mode so that they can then pull the pin and build the pace.
We're on with Da Costa. Look at the nose at the top of the screen. That's already had a bit of abuse on the back of one of the cars ahead, presumably of Dan Ticktum.
Mortara in third place with just under a minute's left of his attack mode remaining. He's got a nice buffer, though, to Nick Cassidy, but Cassidy's looking pretty strong here. He's in 4th position as it sits for now, but you can see the drivers behind, all in active attack mode, and Cassidy defending quite nicely. The top 2 into attack mode then and going for that. Where are they going to emerge? It's going to be close there, and de Vries is going to lose track position here. Dennis shuffles out in front of Nick Cassidy, so that's pretty important here for Jake Dennis at this point, because Mortara in front is coming towards the end of his first attack mode deployment, so he'll be a bit of a sitting duck. De Vries knows he needs to get on with this one and get ahead of Cassidy to not lose too much time, and does so quite nicely down to the first corner. Again, really, really important, critical move there for Nick de Vries.
But Dennis only took 2 minutes of attack mode. Remember, Verline took a lot of his at the beginning. It was only 2 minutes for Dennis, 4 minutes for de Vries. But this is perfect timing for Dennis because he will, on the straight down the start and finish, be able to overtake Edo Mortara, as a Mortara is now out of attack mode.
Yeah. In the door.
Not sure why he did that, to be honest with you. I think it was more of a defence against de Vries than anything else, because de Vries also will be able to go past his teammate, and it's 1-2. It's the same formation as before. The big loser, though, is Taylor Barnard. He got shuffled all the way down when he came out of attack mode and touched that barrier on the right-hand side and was on the dirty part of the circuit as the train came through.
Yeah, has that cost an opportunity for a podium challenge here this afternoon for Taylor Barnard? Cassidy, again, still sitting pretty sweet there in 4th position. He's really good at these races where you've got to just use your head and be patient. Oh. Barnard looking for an aggressive move on the outside onto the dirty stuff, loses a place there to Nico Muller to compound his woes.
That is just a little bit of frustration and slight inexperience of Taylor Barnard. You can see the performance without doubt is there. However, he tried to do something that was never really on.
I've got some 350 cars coming. I think I should pick up the pace.
Agreed, let's go plan 8.
Yeah, that was the pinpoint there for Jake Dennis and de Vries. Now, of course, with 1 minute and 40's worth of attack mode remaining, so is de Vries going to try and get track position here against Jake Dennis? Well, you would imagine he would love to do so and lead this race. It's not particularly energy critical, we're expecting this one to be. Dennis is going to try and defend it, and an aggressive chop over down the start-finish straight. De Vries forced to the outside line into turn 1. Dennis defends the lead. No way through there for Nick de Vries. Has to live to fight another day.
Yeah, and he's got one more opportunity. In 1 lap's time, he will run out of attack mode, extra power on the start and finish line. So he has to get it done into the hairpin at 13. Unlikely against Jake Dennis, or he's got to get it done down the start finish straight. That,
as it stands for now, this is now or never time here for Nick de Vries. Down into the final corner then here, team radio.
Okay, just manage your target as you need.
De Vries down the start finish straight, attacking against Jake Dennis. Dennis again goes for that defensive line, but de Vries has got more power. Oh, contact! And Dennis loses front wing down into turn 1. A very aggressive chop over from the 21 of the Mahindra of Nick de Vries, and it's cost Jake Dennis his front wing, and I'm sure the stewards are going to be looking at that one.
Yeah, they will, without doubt, on the start-finish straight. The other thing is there's bits of debris all over the start-finish straight now. Hopefully it doesn't bring out a safety car, but we'll have to wait and see. But I would like to see that one again, because that was a super aggressive manoeuvre there by Nick de Vries as he pulled back over the front and not quite 100% past Jake Dennis, as we saw.
Down to the start-finish straight. Chopper. Yeah. So they were side-by-side. De Vries decided to defend it down into the first corner, but he wasn't far enough in front of Dennis. You can see there, extra track position, safety car is out. We can see on our timing screen.
Yeah, it was actually, the issue is it was Nick that moved.
And what was that?
It was Nick that moved from the left-hand side of the circuit to the right to cut over in front. Here we'll see it. Jake Dennis didn't actually move, he moved back very, very slightly, but that's where the impact happened.
The thing is, there was a load of real estate on the left-hand side. I get what de Vries was trying to do. He's trying to stop the challenge there from Dennis.
Completely. It's just a misjudgment. I wouldn't say there was anything there. It was an aggressive manoeuvre, but it was a misjudgment. The question is...
Well, this is where it all started. So out of the final corner, of course, don't forget that Dennis did this a few moments ago.
Safety car, please follow safety car through the main straight to turn 1 section. We need to collect some debris. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so Marek Aniszewski deciding to deploy a safety car there. No surprise at all. There's debris littered all over the circuit. What this hasn't done is any favours for Nick Cassidy, because he was in attack mode, as we saw. I mean, it seemed pretty inevitable to me that we were going to get a safety car. So whether they should have waited. But then I guess the problem is you wait too late, and then you can't use all of those attack mode deployments. Look what we had in Miami, where we've
had it in multiple races. That you've got to finish your attack mode by the time the end of the race. That's one of the stipulations. Difficult for de Vries to get out of that one. It's a very quick safety car, though, and it's in this lap, so let's get back to racing.
Yeah, don't think we're going to have any added laps. Safety car needs to be out for more than 3 minutes to get at least one, and I don't think it was.
De Vries is gone.
Yeah, de Vries is gone. He's got to go now, hasn't he? And this is going to be a flat-out race, then, surely, to the checkered flag. How are the attack mode deployments going to work out? Lap 26 we begin as we go green flag racing.
Collision with Cassidy as well.
Just manage the rears as much as you can now.
Yeah.
It's under investigation. You just need to park it for now, all right?
Yeah, copy that.
So contact then for
I did not
Nick
move
Cassidy.
an inch. You just
And he's come to the end of his attack mode. And Costa through on the inside. Sorry to talk all over the team radio there with Jake Dennis, but yeah, as we suspected, the incident under investigation between Dennis and De Vries, no surprise there at all, which has brought out the safety car. We'll see whether that comes to any conclusion before the end of this race. Hopefully it will do, and we'll get a true idea of exactly what's happening.
The rest of the race, it got a massive whack, and it was slightly a kilter as well.
Yeah, are they going to be looking at that and possibly throw the meatball flag? We'll wait and see. So that 10-second time penalty for Nick De Vries with 10 laps to go then here. Dennis's front wing, I mean, it looks battered and bruised, but it seems okay structurally. It's holding on as it stands for now. Here is Frijns moving in front of Mitch Evans for 12th place down into turn 1. Hughes, meanwhile, getting the better of Verne, who's been brought right back into contention, well, at least onto the back of the pack after the early dramas and the visit to the pit lane. And if he can cycle ahead of Dennis De Vries here, back him up, then it might allow an opportunity for Mortara. Dennis, though, goes into attack mode. Where's he going to emerge? Close with Dan Ticktum. Nice to the wall on the outside there, but Ticktum's in attack mode here as well. He's got 2.5 minutes now remaining, so it's going to be a case of who is going to be last of the late breakers, and can Dennis cycle through on Ticktum, or is his fellow Briton going to disrupt his rhythm here?
I've got to say that was a very neat execution of it by Jake Dennis. He kept inside, he didn't go wide, he didn't lose. He lost the minimum amount of time as he went through there. 26% energy in 6 minutes of his attack mode to go.
So now if you're Mahindra, what you would do surely is you would let Mortara through on De Vries and then get De Vries to back the rest of them up if you can. Create a gap for Mortara, because he's got one attack mode deployment remaining, so that then when Mortara goes into that final attack mode deployment, he can then hold track position.
Yeah, or you look at it the other way and say, well, De Vries actually has got to go because he's got a 10-second penalty, so he's got to make sure he's ahead of Taylor Barnard, who's 9.2 seconds behind him at this moment in time when the checkered flag falls.
And Dennis, who've just gone into attack mode, could spell disaster.
Yep.
There is the Briton down at the first corner. Yellow flag is out, no overtaking at the best zone for that on the circuit.
This could be absolutely Dan Ticktum's favourite situation right now.
Is this handing a possible opportunity for victory into the hands of Dan Ticktum here, because he's now effectively in the race lead?
Control speaking, we go full course yellow in 3, 2, 1, full course yellow, please.
Right, so if you're in attack mode then, and you've not got many minutes left remaining, this is a disaster for you. If you're Jake Dennis, you've got 4 minutes because he had another 6-minute deployment. In theory, if this is a short full course yellow, he might be able to use some of that, whilst De Vries and Ticktum in front have come to the end of theirs.
I agree with you, but it doesn't look like it's going to be less than 4 minutes at the moment because the driver's still in the car.
Full course yellow, okay.
4, 3,
So
2, 1, green flag, please.
right, so that's not worked out at all for De Vries and Ticktum. It has worked out beautifully, though, for Jake Dennis and for also Eden Mortara, because they've got 3 minutes and 2 minutes remaining of extra power and of four-wheel drive.
Jake, I don't know what's happening here, but
Well,
they're super
Mortara's deep.
slow.
Yeah, Mortara's deep, and that's allowed Buemi to challenge on the inside. Mortara just able to pick up the pieces with four-wheel drive traction on the exit. Down towards the first corner we go. De Vries still with a 3.5-second lead. Ticktum in second place. Oh, Van Dorn also in some drama down at turn 16. So the second of the Maseratis out of this race.
And Dennis looks to be dropping back as well.
Unless it's a glitch on the timing screen. No, it's not. So, well, it's happened to Jake Dennis then here in this one. He's dropped right down the order. De Vries in some bother here as well, so he's come to a stop. This is an absolutely dramatic end to this race. So we've had 3 retirements in the space of about as many minutes. It's allowed Dan Ticktum into the lead of this one, and it's Mortara who's now all over the gearbox of
Attention,
the
everyone.
Kiro.
Control speaking, we go full course yellow in 3, 2, 1, full course yellow, please.
And no surprise to see a full course yellow there, so that's not working out at all for Dan Ticktum, as they now have to reduce their speed down to a set number of kilometres an hour. So
I'm sorry, but this is working for Dan Ticktum because Mortara had 1 minute of extra power there, 50 kilos extra. He blasted past them in the start-finish straight.
absolutely, no, you're quite right. But you know, if it's a short full course yellow and Mortara can use that attack mode, great for him. But you know, if it's a longer one, then
Yeah, but he's sitting there and Mortara's time's ticking down without
exactly. Yeah,
doing anything.
I agree. Right, so De Costa there in 5th position, 2 minutes of attack mode there remaining. Let's have a look at what happened though for Stoffel Van Dorn down at turn 16. Oh, that's a technical failure, surely.
Yeah.
Coming down into there and no brakes at all. And this is De Vries later on. as he came to a stop in the Mahindra. So he already had a 10-second time penalty, and it's a DNF for the Dutchman down at turn 7. Let's have a listen.
Just switched off.
Yeah, computer says no.
All of these happen just after a safety car.
Well, Fred Bertrand, as you can imagine, very disappointed. So now the full course yellow comes to an end.
3, 2, 1, green flag, please.
And on lap 34, we do go green flag racing. Ticktum immediately defends down in towards the first corner against Edoardo Mortara. So deciding to go and pull the pin is Dan Ticktum here, but how defensive is his driving going to be against Mortara?
You can also drop energy pedal for defending, only for defending. Can be useful at the restart.
So it will be pretty defensive, but he's got a bit of energy left underneath him here as Dan Ticktum, and an opportunity for his first victory in Formula E as well. Through the middle sector of the lap we go. The top two have got a gap of about a second and a half or so to Sebastian Buemi's in third place.
That was really close up against the wall there for Edo Mortara, as he's just trying to shuffle and keep the pressure on Ticktum. Ticktum had a very good restart there off that. And Ticktum's pushing. You can see the rear of the car dancing around behind him into the corners and out of the corners. He can sense without doubt this is the first victory of his Formula E career. That's there, it's sitting there, but at the same time Mortara wants to get this one as well for Mahindra.
Down the start finish straight we go. Is Mortara going to be close enough to think about a look into turn 1? Not quite at the moment, but just keeping more lap to go. 2.3 kilometres separating Dan Ticktum from his first win in Formula E and Edo Mortara for his first victory since Seoul 2022. It's Cupra Kiro versus Mahindra. It's winner takes all stakes, and it's 1 lap to go.
So just Mortara, same sock.
So same energy remaining then for Mortara and Ticktum down to the first corner, and Mortara not close enough here, Alan.
Definitely not, definitely not. It's going to be a mistake by Ticktum, I think, that will allow that door to open up for Mortara. I don't think Mortara is quick enough or close enough to actually make the manoeuvre on his own right. He's got one real more overtaking opportunity down into the hairpin at 13. And then after that, it's pretty much controlled by Ticktum. But Ticktum has driven very, very well in this race.
He's just building out a little bit of a buffer there. It's only about half a car length or so, but that's enough to not be under any immediate pressure from Edo Mortara. You can imagine in the Mahindra camp, Fred Bertrand is going to be willing his driver on for victory, but Mortara is nowhere near close enough as we come down into what is really the final overtaking zone on this lap. And unless Ticktum fluffs his lines, he has surely got track position into the final sector. Down in towards turn 16 we go. What a race this has proven to be here in Jakarta. One more turn left, and on his 60th start, Dan Ticktum for Cupra Kiro will finally become a winner in Formula E. The British driver takes the checkered flag. Dan Ticktum wins here in Jakarta, to the delight of Cupra Kiro, to Alex Wee and to Russell O'Hagan. Edo Mortara takes second. Nico Muller in third position on the podium as well. What a fantastic race here in Formula E, and what delight for Cupra Kiro and for that team to take their first victory since season 2. Absolute delight for Dan Ticktum here in Indonesia.
Hold on. Yes!
Well, Dan Ticktum takes the victory, and you can see the emotional faces down in the Cupra Kiro garage for the winner's trophy to be awarded to Dan Ticktum by the governor of Jakarta. What a race we have been treated to on our return to this fantastic location. Formula E always delivers, and it has delivered a 6th winner in 6 races. And a new winner in Formula E. Dan Ticktum is victorious for the first time. And now it's time to run and take cover for the dignitaries and for the celebrations to begin for Dan Ticktum, for Nico Muller and for Edo Mortara.